Welcome to Lyme Support Network Podcast, hosted by Holistic Therapy Tribe. In each episode, we talk with someone from the Lyme community, like a doctor, warrior, coach, or an advocate, to hear their personal story and insights. Today, our focus is on a Lyme coach. Our guest is Liz Goring. Liz is a wife, mom of three, faith-driven, certified holistic health coach, Lyme specialist, and SZYTO practitioner. After living for 18 years with misdiagnosed symptoms, Liz was finally diagnosed with chronic Lyme disease 9 years ago. She also discovered that her daughters had unknowingly been affected in utero, which launched her family into an intense but transformational healing journey. Today, Liz helps others uncover the root causes of their symptoms and rebuild their health through her program. The program is rooted in recovery pathways to wellness. From detox to neurosystem support to trauma healing to gut health, she covers it all in that program. In this episode, we will explore her personal journey, her expertise in Lyme disease, and practical steps for anyone navigating chronic illness. Liz, welcome to the podcast.
I appreciate that warm introduction and to be here. Honestly, if my story can be a beacon of hope to anyone out there, this is, why I raise my hand and say, okay, I'm a busy mom. I'm working and helping others, but I'm really happy to be here today. Thanks.
Thank you. So, can you tell us a little about your personal journey with the Lyme disease and how it was diagnosed after so many years?
Our journey, to put into words, the Reader's Digest version of it, started, now it's been 1996 when we connected all the dots. And like you said, I was finally diagnosed 9 years ago after living with 18 years of misdiagnoses. So when we connected all the dots in 1996, I was 17. I went on a backpacking trip out to Colorado. Backpacked through the mountains for a week, had an amazing experience, and got home and got really, really sick. They couldn't quite figure out what was going on. I developed Bell's palsy, which now we know that is a huge indicator of Lyme disease. But back then, being a healthy athlete, they really didn't have any answers. So the paralysis came back in my face, and then that's when the cascade of issues started to decline for the next 18 years. And, being from Michigan, it's amazing that they did not check sooner than 18 years because there were so many things that they were looking for that mirrored Lyme disease, but we know it's a great mimicker of a lot of other things. And I just went undiagnosed. So kind of a long story short, after that 1996 experience, a year later, going to my senior year in high school, I developed shingles, which is pretty odd for again, somewhat healthy 17, 18-year-old to contract from that. So there was obviously some immune dysfunction going on. Going into my freshman year at Michigan State University, I started having a lot of neurological issues, high anxiety, a lot of insomnia, in and out of specialists. I was told it was stress. It was in my head. Didn't quite explain why, but kept putting Band-Aids on the solution with putting me on different pharmaceuticals and, checking the blood work, saying everything is fine, it's in your head kind of thing. So I went through the gamut of doctor to doctor to doctor all throughout that time. I met my husband in college when I was 19. And so he started to see things go downhill after college as well. We had moved out west to Arizona, and I started having a lot of migratory pain, in and out of chiropractors, PT, you name it. Couldn't quite figure out why I was experiencing all this pain. Every blood test you can imagine, specialists, only to be told that it was again stress and in my head. So a lot of, not that doctors weren't advocating, because I think they were truly trying to figure out what was going on, but at the root of all of it, later on we'll be told, it is Lyme disease. So throughout that time, I was labeled with fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome. I had chronic insomnia, anxiety disorder, you name it. It was kind of one of those things that they put a general label on because of all the issues I was having. I actually became a personal trainer throughout that time because I wanted to figure out my own body and the muscles and trying to get to the root of what was going on, because I just kept advocating and I knew that this wasn't something that was just happening to me because of stress. And so I'm an educator by trade. So I, was teaching full time. I got married and we wanted to start a family. I had a lot of issues getting pregnant, a lot of hormonal imbalances. Again, goes along with all this Lyme stuff. And I could honestly sit here and talk about my story all day because there's every symptom under the Lyme spectrum. I feel like I could check about every single box. I started having anaphylactic issues. I started having mast cell type issues. I was just trying to get through each day, to be honest. After the birth, I finally did get pregnant, but after the birth of my first daughter, it was very challenging, primarily because of the state of health I was in, but she also started experiencing some health issues. And again, we were told it was colic, we were told it was reflux, we were told there was all these things, even in the infancy state, that really now do align with Lyme babies. So fast forward, we moved from Phoenix back to Michigan. Within that time, when we were back in Michigan for another 3 years, I had 2 more babies, and with a lot of help with fertility. My third one actually was a really early present surprise, because I was told based on my hormones I could not have babies. But again, since the birth of those 2, we also had health issues. My husband was relocated out to Huntington Beach, California. And so we picked up and moved with a family with a 4-month-old, a 2-year-old, and a 5-year-old to California. And honestly, I'm so grateful for my family, because my mom was out a lot helping, because I was just trying to get by each day. I had taken a step away from the classroom because I was really having a hard time just managing getting through the day. I was writing down everything because the brain fog was so thick, and I was confused, and I was lack of sleep and all these different things. So when we were out in California, I was starting to get connected to other sources of medical professionals outside of the conventional box. And I started seeking some guidance from these holistic doctors. And these 2 homeopaths are the ones that actually started uncovering all the co-infections and said, we think you're a full-blown Lyme patient. Yeah, I was dealing with mold, I was dealing with parasites, I was dealing with all this bucket of things that was impacting, obviously, my overall health. So I'm grateful, because they're the ones who referred me to a Lyme literate doctor out in Irvine, California. And honestly, we know how poor testing is for chronic Lyme disease, but 2 blood tests later, I tested positive for Lyme. And since I had given my backstory and my back history and had all my issues with my kids and their health, we got the kids in right away, and all 3 of my kids tested positive for Lyme and other co-infections as well. So, not only was I battling Lyme, but I had 6 co-infections: Mycoplasma, Bartonella, Babesia, Rocky Mountain Spotted Fever, Ehrlichia, and I was dealing with EBV, mold, parasites. I feel like I'm leaving one out, but a diagnosis was actually a blessing, because we had been just struggling to find out answers.
Now, at least a direction is there.
Yes. And so from there, it was really then a big 2.5-year battle of trying to get everything under control. And I started, learning a lot about just the body and what really needs to happen to get to the root cause of healing. So that's kind of a snippet. I know it's so hard to sum up in 18 years everything, because those of you that struggle with chronic Lyme disease probably hear a little bit of yourself in my story. There's so much more to share than that.
So what was the most challenging part of your family's healing journey?
Honestly, the hardest part was probably the emotional and financial toll. We know that when you're dealing with 18 years of misdiagnoses, it was almost like a job, just trying to figure out my health and function properly. In and out of chiropractors, 2 to 3 times a week at times. Trying to manage the work, trying to manage the lack of sleep that I was living on. There's so much that impacted all of that. And especially when my kids were really young, just trying to put on a happy face and actually be the mom that I knew I wanted to be. So I think that emotional piece was a really huge part of it too. I felt very isolated for years because I just, like I said, I thought everyone was telling me it was in my head and I was crazy. So I think another great part about the diagnosis was actually being connected to people that were also going through this. The reason why I'm on here today is because so many of us struggle in silence, and it's this invisible disease that we just no one can see what's happening inside. So I think that was a huge part of that diagnosis, was actually just being connected to the community like you serve, and feeling like we could learn from each other. And we know that there's so many ways to treat Lyme that unfortunately, there's not just one protocol. So it was a great way to start learning from each other so that you could continue on our own healing and figure out, what was going to work for us. So, as far as like my daughters go, I think a big part too has been, their kids. And this is something that they have to live with forever. For myself, obviously, I unknowingly passed this to them. And that was something I had to really work through. I really believe strongly that it's a mind, body, spirit type journey. And so I think that has been something where I've had to really come to grips with, and it's a main fuel of why I have continued my education and, keep advocating for myself and our family and learning more so that I can help them stay in a good place of health. I'm grateful that for the past 6 years, I've been in my remission state. And I honestly feel that the things that I'm doing now, that I will never have to go backwards again. And I pray that, my kids I've seen struggle a little bit. 2 of my girls in the past couple of years have flared a couple of times. So it's always, as a mom and caregiver, really hard to juggle all the protocols and all the things. And, what's working for one daughter might not be working for another. So it is, something that it's ongoing. I think the one thing as a mom and caregiver, it's like, controlling really our diet and controlling the things that we can control, and doing my best to teach them how to really take care of themselves so that they don't have a lifelong battle with this disease. Because, I know there's so many of us that struggle, and it doesn't mean that life has to always be bad. It really does mean that you can take proactive measures to, get your body back into a state of balance so that the terrain of our bodies doesn't, the Lyme can't combat against that. Like you strengthen your immune system and doing all the things that, I've been sharing with others now along the way here. But yes, so whether it's nutrition or detox or just lifestyle choices, I think I'm really focusing on that and helping my family stay in a good place of health too. So I think, yes, the financial part of it, speaks for itself. We all know that a lot of these specialists and doctors that are out of the box are all out of pocket, and insurance, unfortunately, does not cover a lot of the non-conventional ways. So yes, I think a lot of people could resonate with both of those things being the hardest part of their journey.
So most of my guests, so the story is similar.
Oh yes.
So before reaching the diagnosis, how many doctors you have seen approximately?
So I actually went back one day and just went through my phone contact list just to see, all the doctors that were in my phone list, and, and then wrote down as much as I could recall of who I saw, what was it for. And it was 52 doctors that I came up with. And like I said, I have a true strong faith, and I feel like through each of those doctors, God led me into a different path to find my healing. And, it enabled me. Like, I'm not a doctor. I don't claim to be, but I've lived a lot of it. And I've really researched and advocated and feel very equipped to now help other people on their own journeys, being a health coach. But yes, it's like I said, it's not that I didn't take away a little bit of something from each of those doctors, but at the same time, they weren't looking for the root cause of what was going on. Well, not necessarily they weren't looking for it, they didn't find it. And so I have gone back and I actually wrote a email that I sent out many years ago, just not saying like, hey, like, I'm not, more of like, I'm not crazy, but listen, if it's someone else, I just want you to be aware, like, this is the diagnosis I finally got, and this is the measures I've been taking to get in a better place. And I'm like a completely different human now. Just so if someone else walks into your practice, you know, if it's jaw pain and you can't figure out what it's coming from, like keep in the back of your mind my story. And so I hope that that blesses someone else in the future that's trying to seek out conventional ways to really help themselves. But yeah, it's really baffling that, you know, being from Michigan, especially, and all my issues mirrored so many that no one throughout that 18 years ever even checked for Lyme. It wasn't even brought up. I didn't really know what Lyme disease was until those homeopathic doctors mentioned that they thought that's what I was probably dealing with.
The reason why I asked this question is number of community members who are warriors. They have gone through and they should get a hope. Even though this much numbers they have seen, never don't worry about that. People have come across solution. So just to those people I have asked. And do you want to mention the doctors who has really turned the needle in your journey, moved the needle?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that's the hard part. So I started with my diagnosis out in California, and I'm grateful that Dr. Sunny Raleigh, who's a doctor in Irvine, she is someone who first started me on my protocol. And like, you know, you put your eggs in the basket because you don't know, you're trusting that your doctors are looking out for the best of you. And, you know, I've learned so much now through this time, but I did do at first like a huge antibiotic bomb. And looking back, like, there's part of me that knows that might have been helpful, but there's also a huge part of me that knows that it really did a lot to my system and my body. So like in hindsight, would I do that again? I don't know. But I was in California, and the first 4 months I did was doing a lot of antibiotics. I was doing that paired with like holistic measures. A chiropractor out in Huntington Beach was also helping me along with doing some energetic type medicine, kind of like Rife machine, like frequency stuff. So I was doing a lot and not quite knowing what was working and what wasn't. I also had the double MTHFR gene mutation, so that was going against me. So I really know that, you know, learning about detoxing and focusing on detox, and, you know, I had to go really slow because I was really sick. So then 4 months into my diagnosis, we got relocated back to Michigan. So we had to make this move, and all of my family, and, you know, feeling like I finally had a little bit of a gain on like getting to a better place. And, you know, it was scary. It was scary going back to Michigan, feeling like, oh gosh, I'm moving away from the help that I was getting. What am I going to do next? And that took a little bit of time to find the right people here in Michigan. I was doing some telehealth through that time with my doctor back in California. But I'm here in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and I ended up linking arms with a doctor here. Her name's Dr. Linda Hegstrand, and she's an integrative functional medicine doctor, and she has her own protocol. And I was able to then meet who now is my naturopath. Her name's Dr. Amy Todd, and they were like a key part to my healing journey. And you know, honestly, once we got into remission, I started learning a lot about what we need to do to get there. And so I linked arms with a nutraceutical company like 7 years ago called LifeVantage. And the premises behind their product line is much different than supplementation. It's about activating your God-given pathways to start working like they should. It's really focused on cellular health and healing and getting to the root cause. And so when I saw that, you know, I was taking 2 granny pill boxes full of supplements. And, you know, at the time I knew my body was deficient in all these things, but I didn't know what was working, what wasn't. You know, I was in just a really grave state of like, I knew at a cellular level, I needed healthy cells. So I started learning a lot about nutraceuticals and nutrigenomics and how you can use nutrition to change gene expression and reduce oxidative stress naturally and help heal the mitochondria and fix and heal the cells and our gut health and brain health. And, you know, honestly, you know, partnering with that nutraceutical company is what kind of drove me to becoming more educated and going back to school to get my health coaching certification and my Lyme specialist certification. And I'm not sure if you or your listeners know what a Zyto scan is, but or Zyto device. It's a bioenergetic device that can help pick up
So from there
stressors.
we can is it like from there we can find out it is Lyme or not?
So it's not a diagnostic tool, but it is based off of like energy type medicine. It's based off of it's called galvanic skin response, and it's a hand cradle. It's a bio survey that's connected to a program. Any practitioner that's certified can run Zyto scans on you, but it gives me as a health coach a really good indicator of biomarkers in your body that are out of range, and then which systems of the body that I can focus on to help best peel away those layers to get to the root cause of healing. So it's something that I use with my people locally. I also, some of the different services that I do provide that, I can share a little bit later on to my doctor of naturopath friend. She does surrogate muscle testing. And I know a lot of this has to be people that are really open to different types of medicine, which I'm assuming a lot of your listeners being holistic therapy tribe are. I feel like I lost track of the first question you asked me, so I apologize.
As a matter of fact, approximately 80% of the patients Lyme disease, they get a significant cure from alternate medicines, not from
and that's kind of where I started. I started too. I think it's really the holistic side that's gotten myself really into the state that I am now.
Especially when it goes into chronic stage. This is my observation. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So what does Rooted in Recovery Pathways to Wellness involve? What inspired you to create the program?
Yeah, so I told you I partnered with the nutraceutical company, and I know that LifeVantage and our products can do huge measures for helping support the body in the healing process. But especially with people with Lyme, it takes so much more than just one thing to really, it's a tool in the tool belt. It's like really, I was doing health coaching through using and sharing those products to people that I knew that, I need to be educating, because I told you I'm a teacher by trade. So for me, the education piece is huge. And, being an overwhelmed mom that got a diagnosis 9 years ago, I think I wanted to be that person for someone else, and being able to help with either their practitioner or whether they choose to partner with myself to walk them through the steps of what we need to do to really get to the root cause of healing dysfunction. And I created it's a 6-month program that I'm actually launching officially October 1st. So it's exciting to get on here and kind of share a little bit about what that's going to look like with you guys. And do you mind if I share my screen just so I can pull up some slides that I created?
Yeah, you can.
Okay, let me see. All right, let me make sure and I know some of you are on a podcast, so you're not able to see right. Oops. All right. Are you able to see that okay?
Yeah. It's fine. It's clear.
Okay. Let's see, move this out of the way here. So this is my family. For those of you that can't see this right now. I'm grateful. When you see the screen though, do you just see my family there?
Yes.
Okay. So, I'm grateful that this is my why. This is why I do what I do. And I'm going to explain a little bit more about this program that I've created called Rooted in Recovery Pathways to Wellness. And it's mainly just to educate those of you or people with chronic Lyme or any chronic issue on, what are root causes. So you can see here, for those of you that can see on the YouTube, root causes can be thought of as underlying issues that lead to symptoms or diseases. These can range from genetic predispositions, environmental exposures, lifestyle choices, psychological stressors, and more. So identifying root causes is akin to peeling back the layers of an onion. I used that kind of metaphor before. It requires a deep dive into your history, environment, and lifestyle, because we know that not each of us can have the same protocol and heal the same way. So it's really about teaching people about how to understand Lyme and chronic issues, or chronic illness and autoimmune diseases. So we know that chronic illnesses are long-term health conditions, like many of us that are battling chronic Lyme disease. And autoimmune diseases occur when the body's immune systems mistakenly attacks healthy cells. So that's why they say Lyme is very autoimmune-like. Our bodies start going against us in various ways. I'm sure that many of you have been labeled with different autoimmune issues over the years, why chronic Lyme is really at the source of it all. So we know that these conditions affect various organs and systems within the body. And we know that the symptoms can be very, very challenging. And I think that's the hardest part, is that you kind of start to feel crazy because you're having all these issues and symptoms and nothing's all being put together until you get that Lyme diagnosis. So with Lyme, we know that it affects many systems of the body. You can have that rash. Not everyone gets that bullseye's rash. I think that's a huge misconception, but some really systemically, it can be like flu-like symptoms. We know fever, chills, swollen lymph nodes, fatigue. You can have digestive issues. This presented itself a lot in my third child. She had a lot of GI issues, SIBO, just pain and discomfort. She was also labeled like failure to thrive, primarily because it hurt to eat. Irritable bowel, leaky gut. We know neurologically, this is a huge component when you are dealing with Lyme. I was sharing that I had a lot of stuff with a lot of anxiety. You could have head and neck stiffness, psychiatric type stuff, memory loss, cognitive impairment. I shared I had the Bell's palsy, and I had a lot of issues with sleep. So it can affect our heart. You can be lightheadedness, shortness of breath, heart palpitations, chest pain. And then we know all the musculoskeletal issues like arthritis, muscle aches, joint swelling, joint pains. All these things can be so encompassing when you're dealing with Lyme disease. So we know that each person is very different, and some may have only a few symptoms, where we might have all of these things. With each of my kids, I feel like we can check off everything on this list because it did present itself so differently in all my children. So with Rooted in Recovery Pathways to Wellness, you can get all these misdiagnoses when you're dealing with Lyme. I know some of you are only listening in right now, but you might have had misdiagnoses like chronic fatigue syndrome, multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's disease, ALS, brain tumor, psychosis, ADHD, fibromyalgia, and much, much more. So with Rooted in Recovery, it's really helping people realize there are a lot of factors contributing to disease development. We know environmental factors. Big thing when I was diagnosed was like, you need to reduce your toxic load. And I was like, I had no idea what a toxic load was. So this is really about educating people about what that toxic load is and walking beside them to help learn how you can reduce and mitigate some of the toxins in your environment, or possibly your diet, skincare, beauty care. All that stuff adds up to our toxic load. And additionally, we talk about how lifestyle choices related to stress management, physical activity, and nutrition can either mitigate or exuberate these risks as well. So it's really important in identifying these root causes, because we know sometimes, like most of us here, traditional medicine approaches often focus on managing our symptoms rather than addressing underlying issues. And by understanding and targeting these root causes, healthcare providers and coaches like myself can offer comprehensive care. So not only you alleviate these symptoms, but also work towards restoring overall health. And why root causes persist beyond dietary protocols, because nutrition is such a huge component, but diet is not always sufficient to address root causes fully. While specialty diets can provide significant benefit, like anti-inflammatory, like we choose not to eat gluten and dairy because of the inflammatory. We try to limit our sugar, which is also really not great for our immune systems. But diet alone isn't the only thing that is going to really address your healing. So the program that I've created is really complex for people that are looking to manage their chronic disease or illness or Lyme. It really depends on the person, and it's geared with coaching so that I can walk alongside these people who are struggling. So really bio-individual depending on their issues. We talk about 9 dietary factors, underlying conditions that they have, adaptions and resistance to what they're doing. So moving forward here, the next few slides, if you want me to continue sharing everything, I don't need to go in depth in all of these, but the program, I really address drainage pathways, mitochondria, your nervous system, unresolved trauma, circadian rhythm, hydration, genetics and methylation, dental infections, gut infections, mold and mycotoxins, and heavy metals. So I'm not sure how elaborate you want me to go, but the program that I'll be launching August 1st is going to be really significant in getting to help restore the body so that you can optimally function and thrive again with this disease.
Okay. So it seems it is very exhaustive program. Yeah. And it'll be a thorough cleansing and of the entire system. And so chronic diseases will benefit from this for sure.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, like I said, I have a lot of slides that go in depth in each of these and why they're important, but I didn't know how much information you wanted me to share.
Yeah. So this, I think, this itself is having the content for a different episode altogether. So we can have it as a webinar.
Yeah, so that's just a little snippet. Like I said, I'm doing a lot now with providing coaching services alongside the program that I'm developing. But it's just been, I've just kind of let this lead the way authentically. It's amazing to see now how my journey has really impacted other people, and just not providing almost like a roadmap, but also just hope, because I never would have thought that, from 9 years ago today, I'd be in the state of health that I am. I'm 46 and I'm an athlete and I'm a mom chasing 3 teens around now. My kids are 13, 15, and 17, really busy, involved. And, even being on here today, like I couldn't have probably processed or even been able to talk like this 9 years ago, because my brain just was not even functioning. So yes. I just feel very grateful. And, thank you so much for, allowing me to share a little bit of my journey with you guys.
So what are some of the common misconceptions about Lyme disease that you have encountered?
Oh my goodness. Well, we know that I took some notes here, so I want to flip over here. I think some of the misconceptions definitely, like the bullseye rash. I didn't have a bullseye rash. Well, I do not recall a bullseye rash. I don't even remember. I don't even recall being bit by a tick, to be honest. I think that's a big thing that sometimes people can get that misconception. And the healing process is not linear. Like I definitely, there's ups and downs, and it's not a one direct action. I think that's a big thing that can really baffle like people, as far as like, okay, I thought I was getting better, I'm not getting better. So it's not linear. You definitely have to manage as you go along. And I feel like I had a couple other things written down, so I was trying to find my notes here. But off the top of my head, those are like the 2 things that really stick out right now.
So how does detoxification play a role in healing from Lyme disease?
So detox is non-negotiable. I know that I'm not alone with having some of the methylation issues. I did mention that I had the MTHFR double gene mutation, which makes it even harder for my body to properly methylate and detox. So I really find that the top 2 things that hold people back who are healing from Lyme disease are detoxification and dealing, like meaning that their drainage pathways open, and the emotional component. So it's definitely something that you need to focus on, and definitely focusing on before you start a Lyme protocol. It's going to backfire on you if you decide just to kill the pathogens when your detox pathways are not even open, so that you're able to get rid of that toxin buildup. So if your liver, your lymph, your colon, and skin pathways aren't open, you'll get stuck and you'll have endless Herxenheimer reactions where you're going to feel really, really bad. So I really guide clients through detoxing and, using binders and hydration and sweating, infrared saunas, and gentle drainage remedies, lots of different dry brushing, tapping, lymphatic type stuff, massage to get those detox pathways open, and keep things moving out. And detoxification is an ongoing thing too. Like I focus on different detoxification habits in my own daily lifestyle, just to make sure that it's going.
Can you explain the importance of mitochondria and nervous system support in the healing process?
Yeah, so mitochondria, we know, are like our body's little engines. They're the energy factories of our cells, and we know that Lyme depletes them. So restoring ATP and production through targeted supplements and lifestyle resets is key. I know I mentioned the nutraceutical company that I partnered with. LifeVantage has a NRF1 activator, and it actually activates your mitochondria production. So that's been a key supplement that activates my own production and keeps my mitochondria health. I know it's keeping my mitochondria healthy. So there's different supplements and things that you can do to help with mitochondria. And your nervous system is equally as important. It's really easy to get stuck in the fight and flight, and your body will not heal. So doing what you can to integrate breath work, somatic work, trauma support, things, I know everyone kind of has their own outlet and ways to either meditate or journal, stress reducing techniques. Not one thing works for everyone, but just make sure you're incorporating some of that into your daily routine too.
So what is methylation and why it is important for Lyme disease recovery?
What did you say? Hydration? I'm so sorry.
Methylation.
Oh, methylation. I'm sorry. I was like, hydration's great. You need water for sure. Water's gonna be flushing stuff out, but methylation as well. Like I said, if you're not methylating, it's just going to impair detoxification. So that kind of just goes back to what I was talking about with the whole detoxification role. Methylation as a component that it's focused on when you're doing those good detoxification habits, and making sure that that's not being impaired at all when you're going through your healing recovery is really important.
How does gut health impact your Lyme disease?
So we know that the gut-brain connection is really a key thing. So 80% of our immune function is actually subsides in our gut. So if you have had chronic Lyme and have done a ton of antibiotic treatments, or infection damage, this all damages the microbiome. So you focusing on gut supporting supplements, prebiotics, probiotics, postbiotics are even a thing. Your gut, when it's destroyed by the Lyme bacteria and the pathogens and the antibiotics, it leaves you more vulnerable. So it's focusing and rebuilding that with those types of support, and also focusing on your gut healing nutrients to help with the gut lining as well. Anti-inflammatory foods is essential. I mentioned that we adhere to more of a gluten and dairy-free diet, primarily just because it is very inflammatory. Whole foods, organic, these are all good things that are going to leave your gut in a much better space as well. So collagen, there's so many different herbs and roots and things you can do to help support the gut. So that's something I help people prioritize when working with them as well, because not to, like I said, everyone's coming to me at a different space of health, but no matter who you are, Lyme disease or not, gut health is so important.
Okay. So What advice do you have to people who got newly diagnosed with Lyme disease?
So I know it's so easy to panic. I mean, I can't even tell you the amount of people that I was connected to this summer that, either their child had a tick embedded, or they had gotten a tick bite, or their dog had brought a tick into the house. And it's panic, and you get overwhelmed because now, Lyme disease, I'm so grateful that there's more awareness created around it, and there's so much more people advocating, like all of us here. So it is good to be aware, but it is also one of those things that's like not every tick carries Lyme and co-infections. So it's so easy to panic. It's so easy to get overwhelmed, but I always try to say, just start with the foundations. If people have the tick, I always say, send it away for testing. That can really verify whether or not it might be carrying some pathogenic load. That will be very helpful. If you have gotten bit, keep the tick, keep it intact, put it in a baggie, and there's lots of places that you can send them for testing. If you know you've gotten a diagnosis and you're dealing with Lyme, then like I had shared before, get your detox pathways open first. You want to make sure that things are open so that you are able to eradicate and detox once you're doing the kill off of the infection. It's the bacteria itself. Focus on the controllables. Those are always things that you can do, and that it's tangible way for you to help your health, meaning like your nutrition, focusing on your nervous system type things to really help combat this. Like, we know it's really holistic as far as when you're dealing with something like Lyme. But if you're doing those things before diving into like aggressive Lyme treatments, you're going to be better off in the long run for sure. But it definitely takes time. So I do encourage people, like, especially we know chronic Lyme is much different than treating acute Lyme. But there's definitely hope, and, walking alongside someone like myself or other practitioners is really important key too.
So how does Lyme disease affect children, and what are the steps that parents can take to support their kids?
Well, there's many, Lyme obviously affects children, can be a little bit differently than our own. So when my kids were first, when they were born, so we had a lot of reflux, which is very common in Lyme babies. I didn't know that until after I'd kind of gone through my program to become a Lyme specialist, but it is something that presents if it was passed through utero, like it was from myself to my kids. So that was an indicator now looking back that the reflux was definitely something that was a big component when they were really young. So my oldest struggled with a lot of headaches and migraines. We were in and out of specialists her first 5 years of life, trying to figure out, was it eye problems? Was it like, did she have something going on neurologically? And it really was the only thing that symptomatic wise that I was noticing with her Lyme. So like any kind of long going headaches, that kind of thing, massive immune dysfunction, all three of them. Like they would get sick. We know when they first go to school, sometimes they get sick easily because of being around all the germs, but they would get everything. So their immune systems never seemed to get stronger, only weaker. So my middle had a lot of like bipolar like behaviors when she was young. I am an educator, and I have my major in child development and my master's in language and literacy. So when she started school, I just know that she was not hitting milestones, and it wasn't just failure to, delayed development. It was definitely, I could tell something was off with her emotional and like processing. So she's still my one that has a lot of like neurological impacts from the Lyme. We're actually in the middle of a protocol with her right now because she's 15 and her Lyme flared up at the end of the last school year. So she's still combating some of that neurological components from chronic Lyme, which is really, really hard to see. And then my youngest had a lot of the gut issues. So, it can present itself differently in children, but it can also mirror a lot of the symptoms that we have as adults. So it's just being mindful. And if your mom or dad heart knows that it's just something doesn't seem right, I always tell people, rule it out. I've been connected to so many people now just that couldn't figure out what was going on. And if they haven't ruled out Lyme, I encourage them to do that. And a big handful definitely end up getting a Lyme diagnosis. So I think it's the underlying disease, and a lot of people that don't realize that. Not saying everything, but just it never hurts to rule it out.
So what are some of the important lifestyle changes for Lyme patients to make their recovery process quick?
Yeah, I feel like I focused on a lot of them already. Being a health coach, it's really focusing on those foundations of health that can really impact long-term healing and just thriving into optimal wellness. So, definitely anti-inflammatory diet. So lots of antioxidant-rich foods, organic whole foods. Like I said, we know that some of the major foods like gluten and dairy and soy, you just have to either limit or eliminate while you're healing. It can just give your body more of a break from digestively if you're not creating more inflammation in the body. So diet is a big part. It's not the only part, but a big part. Consistent detoxing habits. Like already this morning, we have an infrared sauna at our house. Like I've already been in the infrared sauna this morning. I have a vibration plate that helps get my lymph going. 10 minutes a day, I just habitually stand on it and let it do its thing. So there's just a couple of things that I'm doing on a consistent basis. We also have a PMF mat with red light. We've got the dry brush in the shower. So I've encouraged my kids, the dry brush is really easy to do before showering. But just making sure that you're really focusing on stress management. I think that's another thing. Good sleep routine. Restorative sleep is like what you need when you're healing. I know it's something a lot of people struggle with when they're dealing with Lyme. Believe me, the insomnia, years and years and years of insomnia. So I have a little PTSD around bedtime, but I've learned some good, I call it my 3-2-1, like 3 hours before I go to bed is my last meal. 2 hours before bed, I cut out the blue light, meaning screens, phone, all that stuff. And then an hour before bed, no work, just like reading, doing whatever I need to do, my devotionals, to kind of get myself set up in a nice, cool bedroom, dark, just so that you are really focusing on getting those good 7-9 hours of quality sleep, because that is when your body is healing and resetting. And if you eat too close to bedtime, it's definitely your body's, it's not fully sleeping, it's working on digestion. So I always tell people, try to cut out the food 3 hours before bedtime. I think all those things can make a huge difference just in your foundation so that you can really heal.
How do you work with your clients to manage and heal trauma, both emotional and physical?
So I think when dealing with trauma, I think, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a counselor, I'm not a therapist, but I encourage people that they definitely have to, to seek out counseling, to seek out help. We all carry trauma from our childhood, from our upbringing, experiences that we've gone through. Chronic illness as a whole is emotional, and it causes physical pain, and it causes us mental pain and trauma. Like I have a lot of PTSD from what I've gone through, but I've done a lot of work to leave the past in the past and move forward. Like we don't want to get stuck in this space of feeling like the victim all the time. Like you have such amazing capabilities for your body to heal that you need to believe that, you need to think that, you need to breathe that into you. So I'm a huge person in mindset and just if you have some type of spiritual practice, ground yourself in that. I think that definitely for myself, my own faith has been something that has grown from all this, because I had lost faith throughout the way. And I truly said, in the beginning, it's a mind, body, spirit type journey. And so I think for myself, if I didn't have my faith, it would not be in a good space, to be honest. But, many of us carry trauma, and it can be from generational, and that stalls healing. So you can seek out people who do healing in the emotional body workspace. I know I've tried different modalities like Psych K, has been something really powerful for myself. I've done some breath work type stuff to help with nervous system resets. I personally love going to hot yoga. I'm sweating and then I'm breathing. For me, that's very therapeutic. But people like to journal, and seeking out like a therapist or counselor is always a good idea too.
Could you share a client success story that highlights the impact of root cause healing?
Yeah, you asked me that, and I was like trying to think, because it's like I've been so grateful to feel like I've impacted a lot of people that I've worked with over the years. I think the people closest to me are the ones that really stick out because I have such a personal relationship with them. I have a couple family members that I've really worked with on a lot of the components that I was sharing earlier. And my dad being one of them. He's someone who has had kind of issues throughout his whole life, and throughout my ongoing education to become a health coach and Lyme specialist. He kind of was my case study, I guess you can say. And at the end of kind of my 2-year process, I uncovered that he had Lyme and other co-infections, and we've done a lot of work to help resolve some of those issues. And it's always great when you see the people you love most get into a better space of health. And honestly, I'm excited for this program to launch October 1st, because I think it can be a huge component to helping people really to stay in a good place of health if they're not there yet, and help get them there, because it promotes getting to the root cause of healing, so that the work that you're doing with your homeopathic remedies or your Lyme protocol, or if you're on an antibiotic route, can really do its job. So I'm excited to share that with people. And like I said, it's like, that's what I'm doing, Like, God didn't put me through all the stuff that I went through for years not to be able to help others. And I just keep getting pushed in this space, and I'm just excited where this goes.
What are some simple steps people can take at home to support their body in the healing of their Lyme disease?
Well, I know we mentioned quick, because I thought you said hydration, but hydration is huge. Just make sure you're getting good quality water, mineral filled. Many of us are depleted with minerals. So I use some trace mineral drops in my water, or I do a pinch of Baja Gold sea salt, something to replenish the minerals that are lost, because when you're in a chronic state, many of those are depleted. So hydration's huge. You guys drink at least half your body weight in ounces. I know in the States we go by pounds, but just keep in mind that water is key. It's flushing stuff out. It's keeping things moving through your system. If you're sweating, it can help with replenishment of, you can even add electrolytes to your water. Something that is really crucial for something easy to implement every day. Focus on something for detox. I mentioned a lot of things about detox. Dry brushing is super simple. Tapping, if you YouTube some videos on tapping, it can get your lymph system going. Getting morning sunlight. I know here in Michigan, we kind of get into these winter months, and we're not getting as much vitamin D from the sunshine. So if you are able to get outside and just without sunscreen on for at least 30 minutes, sunshine is so good for us. It really helps replenish a lot that is depleted. And then also supplementing with vitamin D, because you probably are very deficient if you're battling any chronic issues. Let's see. So prioritizing with your diet, protein, fiber, and vegetables, like good organic vegetables. And working on those daily nervous system resets, like breath work and journaling. So I think those are some simple steps you can do at home.
So this is a rapid fire question. You can give the answer in one word, or one or two small sentences.
Okay.
So what is one thing you wish you knew earlier in your Lyme disease journey?
So that healing is multi-layered. So it's not just about killing the bugs, like I have kind of shared and really feel like gotten the point across, but it's about detoxification, the emotional work, mind, body, spirit. So definitely it's not linear. It's definitely multi-layered.
What is one book or podcast you would recommend to someone starting their healing journey?
So when I was first diagnosed, 9 years ago, so Dr. Richard Horowitz, who I know is also, he's just a huge doctor that's in this Lyme world. That the books that I first got was Why Can't I Get Better and How Can I Get Better by Dr. Richard Horowitz. Like those became my Bibles. So that's something as far as Lyme goes. Podcasts, obviously your podcast is such a tool for other people that are looking for other ways to help heal. And I really I'm a huge biohacker. So I love Gary Brecka, and it's called the Ultimate Human Podcast. I'm kind of a podcast junkie. So I listen to a lot of personal development, a lot of mindset, and then all the health ones too. So those are just a couple that stick out.
So what is the most surprising thing you have learned in your healing process?
I already mentioned it, actually. So drainage pathways and the emotional component. I think those are the two first things that people need to address when dealing with Lyme.
So what would be your one piece advice to people battling with Lyme disease?
Don't do this alone. Like this journey is not meant to do alone. And that's been something that has been so pivotal since my diagnosis. It definitely happens faster, the support and community. It's why I'm doing what I do now, is because I don't want that overwhelmed mom to have to go through this by herself, or that overwhelmed client, starting off their journey to be able to feel like they have to figure it all out. So I think it's definitely important to connect with community and get that support. And just remember, like, all the proactive choices that you make each day, some of the ones that I shared earlier, those all add up, and using them daily and consistently, they will help keep you moving forward. So I hope this was all so helpful for you guys.
Okay. So anything else you want to tell to our community before we close the discussion?
No, my heart goes out to everyone. Like, I know the fight that you're fighting if you're dealing with Lyme, or someone that you love is dealing with Lyme. And just if I can be that beacon of hope to anyone, that it is possible, because I truly, truly in my heart of hearts never imagined that I would be where I am today. So, keep going one day at a time, and, reach out if I can be a support. If you want to learn about anything else that I shared in this podcast, I'd be happy to elaborate or connect so that I can help you on your own journey.
So how can people connect with you now?
Yeah, so I'm not sure if you links in your show notes or whatnot, but I can share my website. It's stan.store /rooted in recovery. And then you can find me on social media on Instagram at Rooted in Recovery LLC. Or you can follow me at Liz Goring on Facebook. Those are great ways to connect with me. Yeah.
Okay, fine. So that brings us to the end of this podcast episode. Thank you, Liz, for sharing your incredible story and for being such an inspiration source. To all who are battling chronic Lyme disease, your courage insight are truly meaningful, and it is a lot for us. It meant a lot for us. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with someone who may need it. And don't forget to follow us for more real stories from Lyme community. Until next time, stay strong, stay hopeful, and keep supporting one another. Thank you.